AITA for not telling my boyfriend I could understand his language this whole time. I have been dating Carlos for about 8 months now, and I'm in a situation that's making me question everything. When I met Carlos, he mentioned early in our conversation that he was born in Argentina, but moved to Canada when he was 12. I was immediately interested because I love practicing my languages, but for some reason I hesitated to mention I spoke Spanish. It wasn't a deliberate choice at first. The topic just shifted, and then the moment passed. On our first date, he got a call from his mom and spoke to her in Spanish. When he hung up, he apologized and explained that he always speaks Spanish with family. I almost told him then that I understood everything, but he looked so comfortable having this private connection to his heritage that I didn't want to take that away from him. So I just smiled and said it was no problem at all. Looking back, this was my first mistake. As we continued dating, it became this weird unspoken thing. The longer I went without mentioning it, the more awkward it felt to bring up. Hey, by the way, I've understood everything you've been saying to your family for the past 3 months is not exactly casual conversation. So I just didn't say anything. At first, it was innocent enough. When his mom would call, he'd speak Spanish, then give me a summarized version afterward. I'd nod along, even though I understood his mom asking if I was the kind of girl he could bring home, and him saying I was different from the others in a good way. It actually made me feel special hearing how he talked about me when he thought I couldn't understand. But about 2 months ago, things started getting weird. Carlos's cousin Javier moved in with him temporarily while looking for a job, and suddenly I was hearing a lot more Spanish conversations, and they weren't always flattering. One night while I was making dinner in Carlos's kitchen, I overheard him and Javier talking in the living room. Javier asked when Carlos was going to get serious about finding a real partner instead of wasting time with Canadian girls who don't understand our culture. Carlos didn't defend me. Instead, he said something like, "It's not serious with Sofia. She's fun for now, but obviously I'll end up with someone my parents approve of eventually." I nearly dropped the spatula I was holding. We had talked about meeting each other's parents just the week before. He told me in English he was excited for me to meet his family. The disconnect between his English persona and Spanish persona was jarring. After that, I started paying closer attention. When his sister visited and asked in Spanish if I was as boring in bed as I looked, Carlos laughed and said, "Definitely not, but I'll tell you about it later." When his mom called and asked if I was still too skinny, he agreed and said he was working on getting me to eat more. The final straw came last weekend. We were at a restaurant with Javier and Carlos's friend Mateo. While I was in the bathroom, apparently Mateo asked if Carlos was planning to bring me to his cousin's wedding next month. When I returned to the table, Carlos and his friend switched from Spanish to English so smoothly, I wouldn't have noticed if I hadn't caught the tail end of Carlos's response. She's just a placeholder until I move back home. My parents would disown me if I brought home someone who doesn't speak Spanish and doesn't understand our traditions. For 8 months, I'd been falling in love with someone who saw me as temporary, as less than, as a placeholder. All because he assumed I couldn't understand what he was saying behind my back. I excused myself saying I suddenly felt sick, which wasn't a lie, and took an Uber home. Carlos texted me all night asking if I was okay, if he should come over, if I needed anything. I didn't respond until the next morning when I asked him to meet me at a coffee shop near my apartment. When we sat down, I started the conversation in Spanish. The look on his face was something I'll never forget. Shock, confusion, and then the slow dawning of horror as he realized what this meant. I told him, still in Spanish, that I'd understood everything all along. The good, the bad, and the ugly. He tried to backpedal, claiming I'd misunderstood or that he was just saying those things to appease his family and friends. I asked why he felt the need to present such different versions of himself and our relationship depending on the language he was speaking. He got defensive, then angry, saying I had been spying on him and violated his privacy by not disclosing that I understood Spanish. I pointed out that understanding a language spoken openly in front of me hardly constituted spying, and that he was the one who had been dishonest about his feelings and intentions. The conversation devolved from there. He accused me of cultural entrapment, whatever that means, and I accused him of using me as a cultural experiment with an expiration date. We left things unresolved. He stormed out saying he needed time to think, and I haven't heard from him in 3 days.